ironic a manga piracy site that houses thousands upon thousands of manga they do not even own suddenly care about laws and want to remove icky fictional content from their site. And there's a lot of people that are now speculating that MangaDex that is starting to do this thanks to one of their head admins talking about the situation. People are starting to speculate that they are now going corpo. And for those that want some context to why people think this is actually happening, it's because we have actually seen this already happen twice in the anime and manga space. First off, we got to talk about Crunchyroll. For those that are uninitiated and unaware of the situation, Crunchyroll is a company that started off as a piracy site. It was a site that had basically thousands upon thousands of different anime that they did not own legally whatsoever, and I'm going to assume back in the day they probably had copyright takedowns and requests and stuff before they officially became an actual company that owns anime and is now a monopoly of anime in the West. But long story short, around the time when Crunchyroll became an actual official company having license to anime, they did the exact same thing that MangaDex is currently doing right now. They slowly started taking down every single bit of content that they did not have a license to or did not own, and eventually they started incorporating stuff that they did get a license to. And it was a slow transition into Crunchyroll becoming an official company that was recognized by Japanese companies within Japan. And then you fast forward, and Faku does the exact same thing. Faku also followed the steps to where they started removing a lot of content from their platform because they also were a piracy site for adult manga content. And as they slowly took stuff down, controversial tags that probably would get their entire site blacklisted by probably payment processors and different things associated behind the scenes, they took a lot of different things down, which then in turn they became an official company licensing out a lot of different adult manga and doujins and stuff to people to be able to buy. And so we have already seen this track record twice already in the anime and manga space in like the last decade or so. And so what's currently going on with MangaDex, it makes a lot of sense why a lot of people are speculating that they're about to become an official manga company. However, this entire situation I don't think is going to work, and for one massive reason. And that is because there already is competition within the manga space. Not necessarily completely amazing, but there is competition in the manga space. You have, for instance, Viz Media is a very good example in the space. They have pretty much the Shonen Jump catalog, and they don't have everything, but they have a good amount of titles, and they're not perfect as a service and all that. There's a lot of certain issues with them, but they do have a lot of content, and it is fairly cheap in comparison to a lot of other options. And then you have Kodansha, which I'm not a fan of their stuff in terms of how they release it online, because there's a lot of censorship and stuff like that, and I think at this point, everybody knows how I feel about censorship when it comes to artistic freedom and stuff, freedom of expression with words and all that. I think that, you know, how Kodansha handles censorship with their apps and stuff is absolutely terrible. Why would I want to pay for a service to get censored content, censored manga, when you could go to a pirate site that basically has everything completely uncensored? But the point of the matter is that there is competition within the space. And could MangaDex, theoretically, if they became an official company, compete with them? Maybe. The problem here is a lot of these official companies with their main official magazines and stuff in Japan already have their own apps that they're using right now, and MangaDex, they would be very hard pressed for them to be able to house content, you know, a lot of content, and become, you know, successful and sustainable as a business model. So I don't necessarily know what they're trying to think, but I think at this time, if there is one thing I think, is that their only option is probably to go corpo, and actually legit. And the reason for that, for those that are unaware, before even this mess is going on right now with them virtue signaling and removing fictional content, the thing here is that MangaDex already had to face a lot of legal troubles last year. I made a lot of videos talking about it. You can probably search it up, Chibi Reviews, MangaDex, and you will instantly find me talking about this subject matter. They got hit by a lot of copyright takedowns, a lot of manga was lost, and I believe most of it was backed up on other sites, but there was mass takedowns of a bunch of different stuff months ago. And this usually, when this happens, it does so much damage to a site, it probably will shut down. I mean, let's look at, like, Bato. You know, Bato, that got shut down, like, you know, less than a month ago. that obviously has permanently damaged that site. Someone's literally in prison now because of the whole situation of Bato. But MangaDex, from my understanding, they just had bunches of takedowns, and that is it. And so maybe there is more to this story, to where the reason why these takedowns are happening and they're shifting like this is for they can become a legitimate legal company. Now, there is something of note that I want to point out, which here, Cute and Funny points out with their post here about MangaDex being an official licensed company in the United Kingdom. Now, we got to address the elephant in the room. I think that this is a very important topic to discuss on what content that, you know, MangaDex is taking off their platform. And I have been very transparent about my stances on this, and regardless of anything that's happened in the last few days, I'm not going to be scared off from my stances in the discussion. I won't bend the knee on that. I think that fiction is fiction, it's not real, and if you think a drawing is real, you're a schizo. I think that you're probably mentally unwell, and I think that you probably need to get checked out. But with that being said, the point is that MangaDex right now, what they are doing is they are removing content that has childlike characters, loli characters and stuff within manga. And there's a lot of things going back and forth, misinformation and stuff with this whole topic, you know, and I don't have the full gist of the full rundown of the story. I'm not going to act like I know every little detail of everything that's happened with MangaDex in these last, like, 40 or so hours. I'm not going to act like it. But what I do know, though, is that this individual right here, this staff and admin, which if you go to Chise's post here, if you scroll in, this admin joined them back in 2024. So this is a very recent addition to their platform, literally post-COVID era. And they're obviously doing the traditional virtue signaling, drawings are real, all sorts of stuff, and honestly, I feel undermining actual victims in real life. And pretty much, this admin, clearly, there is an agenda being pushed here that you see time and time again with certain people within the community, and it's clear that MangaDex is compromised, disregarding the potential possibility of it going corpo or anything like that. There's clearly some compromised staff that obviously is, I'm just gonna say, they're tourists. They're individuals that want to bend and change Japanese culture, but also they want to remove anything icky content within fictional content because it upsets them. For instance, a person like this wouldn't get upset with Game of Thrones, despite it obviously having very questionable content. If you're wanting to question stuff like this, Game of Thrones has messed up stuff, really does. And most of the people don't read the books or probably even watch the show, or they just let it slide because it's Game of Thrones, and it's, you know, I guess accepted by a lot of people within the West, besides obviously the final season. But the point here is that MangaDex is filed in United Kingdom. And for those that have been paying, attention to the news in the last, 7 months or so, just in the last 7 months, you will know that the United Kingdom has kind of went off the deep end, especially with Real ID and censorship, censoring freedom of expression and speech, art, all sorts of things. You even had that stuff, a month ago, I talked about where the dude was legitimately being thrown in prison potentially because of loli fictional content from, Brown Dust, I believe. It was either Blue Archive or Brown Dust, and the charges were dropped. I talked about this, made literally a video 2.5, 3 weeks ago, but, regardless, his life was put in the spotlight and ruined despite all charges being dropped. And MangaDex being housed in the United Kingdom, there probably is some pressure here from United Kingdom to force them to remove this content. And I feel like when I take a look at them being housed in the United Kingdom and you knowing everything that's going on with the United Kingdom with censorship, freedom of expression being, taken, people getting arrested for memes, the stuff that happened to the dude with the brown dust and all that, and the charges got dropped, but, getting arrested and all that, there's a lot of things here that makes sense why MangaDex would be scared and want to comply with the United Kingdom with how draconic they have been as of late. They have been very head-on in really trying to censor the internet and icky content on the internet, but in turn allowing, actual real people to get harmed in their country. And I'm just gonna say it like it is. It's a bunch of virtue signaling. They don't care about actual victims. They just care about looking good with an image. That's exactly what it is. But regardless, MangaDex, the reason why they're probably doing this and they're removing a bunch of different things is probably 3 different reasons. You have an admin that obviously is trying to virtue signal, and they can't separate fictional content from reality. They think a drawing is a real person, which I think is wrong, because I feel like that really lowers the gravity of actual victims. Like, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. The Epstein files. You have this horrific shit that is just being revealed in these Epstein files. It is horrible. It is so evil. Like, I can't really even compare it. It's just so horrendous. And the fact that people can compare a drawing, nothing that's ever had a soul, never existed, not referenced to anything, it's just a drawing on a piece of paper or a pixel on the screen, to compare that with actual victims, like, for instance, within the Epstein files, is so beyond gross to me. It's insane. And the fact that you have so many people that virtue signal and are more hard-pressed on a drawing than what is being revealed with the files itself says everything you need to know, that they don't actually care about victims. They just want to look good online. That is the real thing of what it is. It's all about the image, to make them look fine. And that is it. But you have a compromised, or in this case, you have an admin that's pushing a lot of virtue signaling amongst the staff. You have UK probably bearing its fangs down on MangaDex. And then you have MangaDex that has lost a lot of content thanks to the copyright takedowns. And so, my opinion here, if MangaDex does not become an official company, they're going to die. And the reason why I say that is because at this point, for the last few months, nobody really uses their site. They don't. And the reason for that is because obviously when all these manga are taken down and you can't access what you want anymore, people don't want to use that site no more. That's just how it works with a piracy site. People like to say, why aren't you loyal? But at the end of the day, nobody's going to be loyal to a piracy site. They're just there for the content that's free. That's the truth. People might not want to hear that, but that's what it is. And if another site pops up that's more convenient, they will go to that. Because the reason why people use pirate sites is because of convenience. And if it's not convenient and you can't find what you want, people are not going to use it. And it's obvious that the site has been spiraling. Not a lot of people have been using it, which means in turn ad revenue and stuff is going to dwindle. And if you are now removing even more content that is on the platform, then more people are not going to want to associate with your platform. And so with that, their ad revenue is going to get hit even harder with this bad, publicity that they're getting. So, if they are not going corpo, and they're not going legit, and even then that might not save them whatsoever, because I already talked about that, then they are dead. They're going to die as a company. So, wild stuff, honestly. Really, really wild stuff that's been going on with MangaDex. I don't really know what to say about them. I mean, at this point, if they went official, I wouldn't use them. I'd be very hard-pressed to use their site if they became official. I would. But, I will say this. If they do, I understand why they're doing it. Doesn't mean I have to agree with them on what they're doing. I don't like them censoring art and removing it and stuff. But if they're doing this to become an official company, or they don't want the UK trying to kill them, basically, okay. Because UK is draconic. They are right now. They are. Anyone that is trying to slurp on what UK's been doing, oh, you love that boot on your throat. You do. You love it. And that's exactly what it is. Because what's going on there is insane. I don't know how anyone in the UK is fine with what's going on, because they're more concerned about what you're saying online than actual people getting harmed in the country. Insane. But I will leave it at that. If you enjoy my video, you enjoy my content, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot, and I would greatly appreciate it after all these days. But if any like you give helps a lot. Leave a comment too. Thank you, everyone. You have a very blessed day. Chibi out.